Hello, this is Greg House from Green Greg's coming to you on the 28th of March 2021, and I'm out here in the woods because it's a little breezy and I'm hoping it will mollify the noise on the camera. Now, what we're going to talk about today is rats, the problem of rats on the farm and the kind of damage rats can do, where it can go, especially for preppers. So when you got a homestead or you got prepper supplies, if you got rats, you might have a problem. So there's several aspects we're going to talk about with this. We're going to talk about it from the standpoint of rats getting into your house, rats out amongst your animals. That's how it usually starts if you're a homesteader. And some protections and what worked for me. And I'm also going to mention a thing or two that didn't work, that was highly recommended by another much bigger YouTube channel with a video that got a lot of views too, but something recommended that absolutely don't work. I'm going to tell you about that. So before we go into it, subscribe to my channel, bang the update notification bell, and click all, because I'll be bringing you a lot of videos on homesteading, on gardening, and many other aspects of things you need to know so that you can survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive, which is the proposition of this channel. And you can help this channel by checking my affiliate marketing links. Right now it's time to plant. It's gardening time. Buy your seeds from True Leaf Market. Alright, and another thing you can do is buy prepper supplies from my Patriot Supply. Go to my link though. Use my link, prepwithgreg.com, and things come in much more secure containers than what I was putting a lot of stuff in. And that pertains to this video too. So let's get into it. I hope it's not too breezy out here. I'm trying to stand, I think, with the camera in the direction of the wind where the back is facing away from it. The way to find out is kind of wet your finger. Hold your finger up. And the cooler side will be toward the wind, and I really can't detect that. Okay, but that's one way to tell where the wind's blowing. I think it's coming out of that direction. So I'll stand this way. Hope that works. That's a little woodsman tip, but I don't know if that'll keep the sound straight or not. But, I'll find a tree to get behind too. That may help a little bit. So here's the thing. When you have animals, you're feeding. And when you're feeding, you got to put that feed out. And when you put that feed out, vermin are going to find it. It's going to attract them. It's very wet out here. I'm having a hard time walking around. They're going to find that feed eventually. May take them a while, but they're always out scouting around, exploring, and trying to hunt things like that in the great outdoors. And there's rats everywhere. And there's mice, and then there's rats. If you got a lot of feed, sooner or later, the big rats are going to find you. The gopher rats, pack rats, whatever it may be. They're going to find their way to your feed. And then they're liable to start multiplying. So I was feeding rabbits, had a lot of rabbits at one time outdoors. And that attracted a lot of rats. That and the worm farm too. If they can get in any of the bins, they'll sure enough get into them, and they'll also scavenge the feed you're trying to feed the worms. And that's really breezy, and that's kicking up. A lot of the literature will claim that the rats don't eat meat. I've seen them eat worms. I've seen them kill rabbits, baby rabbits, and I've seen them eat a rabbit after it died. So, don't tell me that. That literature is not true. I've seen it with my own eyes. So, they're very opportunistic. Now, they may be primarily seed eaters and vegetable eaters, but they're very opportunistic. So, just a word to the wise on that. But they can I had to quit breeding my rabbits. They got so bad because they were killing the little ones. I just quit breeding. Now I'm down to just 2 rabbits, where I used to have a bunch. You may saw the empty cages I got. I was planning to expand, and I just didn't do it. I didn't have the heart to do it. I put out poison a couple times and tried to kill the rats, and first it didn't work. I'm going to talk to you all about that. Rabbit poisons and traps and things like that, and general strategies. One of the things that didn't work is there's a YouTube channel that I actually like and appreciate. He's a homesteading channel. The guy, I guess, was in the finance or something like that. He's fairly well educated and does decent research. But I think he jumped the gun on this one. He was covering these sonic repellents, the things that make the ultrasonic sounds and scare stuff off. Now I always was highly skeptical of such things. That can't work. And well, he did a video talking about rats. One thing he claimed was that rats were more prolific in grand solar minimum eras And he might have been right. He said he found research on that. I looked for similar articles, and I couldn't find them myself. I mean, I'm pretty good at finding articles and research papers and things like that, scouring the web, and I tried to find the backup to that. It may be out there, but I didn't see it. Don't mean it's not true. Check the woods out, guys. Sometimes it's good to take the old nature bath, right? Anyway, so he was making claims that the Sonic device worked. He bought a couple of them, put them out in his chicken cages, and he only showed the first night's results. So I thought, well, if they work for him, I'll buy them. I tried a couple, and they worked the first night. The first night they worked. After that, the rats got used to them, and they ignored them. They played on top of them, actually. So they're like good for one night. You know, it'll freak the rats out initially, at least the big ones will. But after about a night, they totally ignore them. So, yeah, that video got a ton of views. A ton of views. Giving out advice for something that didn't work. Well, he's got a good channel, so, and he usually puts out really good content. Everybody makes mistakes, and he probably thought it worked because it did that first night. But in time, they don't work. So I had a problem. These rats were outdoors, and I tried various poisons to get rid of them. I tried these little balls you buy, and I discovered they'll take them all away, but all they do is they store them away. They don't eat them right off. And what I found out was you need a poison that they got to eat on the spot, something they can't carry away. And I found two solutions to it. One was a little liquid that they could drink in like a bird feeder. And another was these big poison bars, these big bars that are poison that they could eat off of. Now we'll walk back up and I'll show you some of those here in a rabbit pen. Hope it don't get too much noise on my camera doing that. We'll do that toward the end of this video. I'll show you what those things look like. Once I went and switched over, I actually wiped out all the rats that were on the outside for a while, and holy smoke, it stunk to high heaven in one spot where they were all nesting. But somehow they got in my house, and the ones that got in my house survived, and a few more came back outside too. And you know, it's like you've got to double down real hard to get these rats. You need to control them while they're outside. I don't know how they got into my house. These were big rats. Well, I do know. They found their way in through the ventilation system, through the HVAC. Somehow they went under the house into the crawl space, and I have looked and I can't find the actual access point. But they went under the house and got into the HVAC system. So part of it is built where the squirrel cage motor is, and it's all blocked off. And I'm thinking that's where they found their way in. Somehow they got in that blocked off section. And they got up into it, got all into my house, and they found my prepper room. At the time, I'm a busy guy, you know. I've been exceedingly busy for a long time. A lot of my preps were still in bags. I didn't have everything boxed up in cans and secured like you should, like 5-gallon buckets. Yeah, that's a lesson I've learned. But they got in that room, and like dozens of them, they got in there. I mean, I don't mean little rats. I mean giant rats, gopher rats, big rats, lots of them. They invaded my house in like an army. And this happened around last April, about the time I shut my website down and stopped shipping worms. That's one of the problems I was dealing with. One, the post office was killing all my worms. I was busy as crap trying to get worms out. Post office was killing them. I was having a headache with that. My dad died, my brother died. I wasn't having an emergency in my house. I was just in an overload situation, a bad overload situation. I had so many things to deal with, it got to be too much. And I had a big project with my day job, which still it's like a never-ending big project. So it takes up a lot of my time. And all these things just kind of collided at once. And so I started trying to trap these rats out because I didn't want to do poison in the house because, you know, I know what it smelled like when they all died. I thought I was going to have to move out of my house. So I tried to trap as many as I could. And I tried steel traps. I tried many types of flip traps, those wooden traps. Those didn't work. They didn't work at all. Not at all, because these rats are really smart. I never did one of them get trapped on one of these, any one of those kind of traps you normally trap with. Even when you go through the details to set them up properly, these rats were smart. The only things I could catch was only two kind of traps that worked partially. And it was glue traps, and glue traps worked if I moved them around. where they wouldn't suspect them, because they'd learn where the glue traps are at. They wouldn't even move them. They knew what it was. Once they figured out what it was, they wouldn't get on. They would actually move them out of their way. So you had to move around and catch them by surprise to catch them. These rats were smart. I mean, they're really smart. You've seen the plank traps. I've had areas of very high rat traffic that wouldn't never catch a single one, but some places they would catch them, but it would be a little while before they would catch. In the videos, it looks like you're going to catch everything you got on your property, jump in right off the bat. That's not true. It's not at all true. So what I had to do is I basically had to take everything out of my house. I almost had to move out of my house. I emptied out that pepper room. I had empty, and then they started invading the bedrooms. So I had to empty a lot of that stuff out. And they got in all my closets. They destroyed a lot of my clothes. They destroyed a lot of my paperwork, a lot of my files. They were making a mess. But I knew if I poisoned them, it was going to be unbearable in the house. But eventually, I got the numbers down enough that I just couldn't eliminate them entirely, so I went the poison route. I put heavy poison out, all in the house and all outside the house. And yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. I almost had to leave the house. It was pretty bad. We had one of these professional spray jobs in there to kill the stuff in the air, and we found the corpses and got them out. We had to remove a lot of stuff. If there was any corpses in the HVAC, the only way to get that out is tear out your entire HVAC system. I don't think I had any in there, but maybe one. But fortunately, we got through all that. The odor died out. The house has returned to normal. Every single rat has died. That's a good thing. There's no rats outside of my property or inside of my property. There's not been for over a month now. So I got 2 cats to go in the house. I got cats on the outside, and I'm poisoning heavy. I'm leaving down lots of poison, and the reason for that is the best best way to deal with the problems is catch it in the prevention stage. Louis Pasteur said an ounce of prevention is worth a gallon of curing. He was absolutely right. So if I get them on the outside before they find their way on the inside, I've got a huge advantage. Of course, I still got all those traps I can use, but I know they got a lot of limitations. At some point, I'm going to rip out a lot of carpet in my house and just redo it. I don't have the money to do that right now, but there's some things I've got to do. I'll probably have to rip out all my HVAC. It wasn't really working properly no way, but at least the AC don't work. But I'm walking through water here, guys. The soil, when you step on it, just mushes up water. You can see there's a lot of water out here in the forest floor. We just had a lot of rain come through here. I'm going to walk up and show you these poison bars, show what they look like. So I got to find a way through that. I guess I'll just wind around this way. It's like the high ground. Another thing to pay attention to when you're camping out is make sure you're not in a low spot when you make your bed. You might find yourself soaking wet, like that tree over there that's laying down. That tree would make a nice place to lean branches up to and build a little lean-to or wigwam. But looking underneath it, there's some wet spots to each side. But in the middle, it seems okay. So you really have to pick your way around stuff like that. So I have to use this as a foot log because it's definitely wet underneath it. Whoa. Yeah, a lot of wet spots out here. Greenhouse. Magnolia tree, probably came from the one I got in the front yard. Yeah. Believe it or not, I use this little bank here as my bang bang range. So, out here in the middle of nowhere, you got to point things into the ground though, still, to be safe. Alabama, you have to be 500 feet away from everybody else's house too. And yeah, that point makes it. Right here in the very back. Well, a lot of people don't follow that around here. A lot of target practice gets conducted. They don't follow that. But, as long as they stay safe, I'm not talking. So, see how the groundwater's come up on these guys? Yeah, this is why the bedding's got to go halfway up inside of these boxes. So what's inside is going to flood out. So I'm going to walk you up here and show you the kind of bars that I use. I'll walk through the sled bed area. Just warm enough to have one fan going. Greenhouse, pretty cool today actually. You can see me, I'm still in just a river shirt. I think it was 57 this morning when I was at the flea market and I was dressed the same way. You know, look at this stuff, pollen. Trees are getting ready to bloom out, make seeds. That's my pine trees, guys. Them big blooms up there in the pine trees. Now's the time to collect pine pollen. Pine pollen is useful for a lot of things. Some say it helps keep a man's libido up. Just put it in a tincture and put it under your tongue. So I could collect pine pollen from that. Alright, hang on guys. I'll show you in a minute. Yeah, little Mr. Bunny. I've got 2 rabbits left guys. I got all these cages and no rabbits in them. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. This is the kind of bar that I get. Now see, this is in this cage where nothing can take it out. You can see some rats got on top of it, but they hadn't ate the slap up because it killed them before it did. There was a time, every time I'd come out here, I'd see rats running up and down these chains to get inside these cages. Well, they found that. And I keep those out here, and that's what I put the liquid stuff in. I can get that in crystal form, but sometimes that's exceedingly hard to find. So if I can keep these little bars out here, it'll keep the rat population down to almost 0. But I got to keep a lot of them around, and I put them in all kind of places in order to, you know, wherever I think the rats may be, wherever I think they may want to hide out, I toss those bars. And I just bought a bunch of them. I mean, a whole bunch of them. Those things seem to be pretty effective. So if you want to get rid of your rats, some people worry about, well, what happens to the cats? They might eat a poison rat. And that was one of the things that kept me from doing this much, because I've always had a cat outdoors here. And it kind of delayed me from taking this kind of action, but the rats got so bad I went ahead and did it. But I only did it after I'd been told that cats won't eat a sick rat. So that seemed to work out. None of my cats seem to have ever got affected by it. I've had a couple cats outdoors, and I certainly killed a lot of rats with poison, and the cats never got sick. So I suppose it works, but it just got so bad I absolutely had to do something, because the rats were rats will take over your place. Rats will ruin your place. You know, then you might think they look cute until they destroy your house, they destroy your home. They'll destroy your animals. They'll destroy your homestead. They'll destroy your home, everything, if you let them. Oh, they breed like crazy, and they'll eat anything. They will destroy so many things you wouldn't believe the stuff they would destroy. I had a bunch of antique fishing rods with cork handles on them, which is real nice and pretty, really expensive rods. They ate all the cork up. I don't know where you're gonna find. I'll find cork to replace that. They just tore it up. They tear stuff up, eat stuff up. They tear up all kind of things. So the rats are horrible. You got to do something about them. You got them. The sooner you do it, the better. Yeah, I've seen all. You know, I've watched Sean Woods' rat trapping channel. I've watched that channel for years. I've watched probably 100 videos on how to trap rats. And yeah, he goes in places and gets a lot of them, but he don't get them all. He tells you he does. He never said he got them all, I don't think. I'm pretty sure he don't. But yeah, the right trapping techniques, you can get some. But you're not going to get them all. In fact, when you got a lot of them, they're just going to keep coming. And when you put the feed out, that's what makes them come. If you're running a homestead and got animals, then you're putting feed out. So maybe some of you guys have had better luck. Maybe y'all got better lessons learned. You can share that in the notes below and tell people what you've learned and what you know. But I'm just telling you, the rats became a nightmare for me. And I tried a lot of different trapping techniques. I employed those traps in many different ways. And The only thing I didn't do was build that cell with the little flip traps that they put like 10 of them in boxes. I was going to build one of those, but by the time I got around to it, I got the plywood to sit and cut it, and then a sheet of plywood kind of come up missing. I bought some thin plywood, not this three-quarter inch stuff I normally use for worm beds. The time I just found it, I decided it was time just to poison. I'd had enough. I actually bought probably I probably had 2 dozen walk the plank traps, my friends. Had a lot of those, and they did catch some rats, but nowhere near everything. So the best you can hope for with your traps, and I think glue traps are the best. Glue traps are probably the best trap. The best thing you can hope for with traps is to cut down your population, to make it more manageable. Moving stuff out of rooms gives them less places to hide, and yeah, you'll wind up, well, I probably killed as many with my bowling knife as anything. I got quite a few rats in my bowling knife, and some with my little bang bangs. Yeah, some were taken out by bang bangs with rat shot. So there's a lot of, but the rats will destroy everything if you let them. And you just have to do everything you can to get rid of them, get the population down. But the best thing is not to let them get a foothold to start with. The best thing is to nip it at the bud. The best thing if you got a homestead, in my opinion, is to go ahead and put out the poisons. Just take care of them that way. It's just to get rid of them from the get-go. If you're out feeding critters, you're going to have them. And you might be okay with it today, but you never know when you're going to get those big gopher rats in. You're going to get a population explosion. It didn't happen to me until I had rabbits out here for several years and nothing happened. It just happened all at once. And when it did, it went nuts. But I'm rat free. We got them all, but it was a battle. But now I can start. I got to redo my house. I got a lot of things to repair and fix, but at least I can live in it though now. All right, now this is a video that I kind of hated doing because it's not a comfortable topic, but it's something that preppers and homesteaders need to know about. If you're a prepper, to get in your prep room, you better have all your stuff in buckets. And that goes back to when I'm talking about my Patriot Supply. At least everything in there comes in buckets, and those big thick buckets. So they're a lot better secure in buckets. If you don't give them anything easy to get to from the get-go, then you're at least slowing them down and thwarting them a little bit. If you still got things in bags, oh no. Bags and boxes. I had a lot of stuff in bags and a lot of stuff in boxes, just like I got it from the store. And because I just didn't have time to go in and do the proper, everything to it. And I paid the price for it. I lost all that stuff. And I paid the price with damage to my house and loss of records and paperwork and clothing, stuff in my closets. I mean, they'll climb up the top of your closet. They get them very top of it. They climb stuff you wouldn't believe they'd climb. Anyway, enough said. Well, I'm going to just say thank you for watching. And y'all take care. Goodbye.